Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy RB3 here for First Cut. Here to bring you a new review for the Juneteenth set film from Lionsgate, The BLACKening, the new horror comedy directed by Tim Story. Now, when I first heard of Get Out, I think most of us unfairly assumed that it was just going to be a wacky horror comedy spoof, from the Key and Peele guy. Little did we know that it was actually going to become a breakout hit with Daniel Kaluuya. It was going to be this intense genre-bending thriller that just revolutionized the game, had all this profound thematic implications, and really had a few laughs here and there, but not that much. But it set the new standard for horror, black horror, and even kind of defined a new genre, what some people have been calling ethno-gothic cinema, which is like black horror. We've seen that paving the way for movies like Candyman, Nia DaCosta. We've seen that movie His House on Netflix. Chris Rock doing Jigsaw, and Jordan Peele produced that stop motion animation Wendell and Wild 2 that was on Netflix. So there's so many examples of these. But honestly, just after seeing our people fighting for our lives so many times on screen, it's time that we had a little laugh. It's time that we had a little bit of relief. And thankfully, just in time for Juneteenth, like I said in the beginning, The BLACKening fills that void. To me, The BLACKening is genuinely the funniest movie I've seen so far this year. I haven't seen other films like Blackberry yet that other people have been anticipating and claiming about. But out of the films that I have seen, this is easily the funniest that I've seen so far this year. The Tim Story directed comedy is a zany dismantling of the slasher tropes that we've seen in past and present cinema. This movie is like it does a perfect balancing act of supplying humor that's both universal for all horror fans to enjoy, but also very super specific for black moviegoers, which I think, if you watch the movie, you're going to get it. Like right off the rip, it starts with references to iconic Scream movie franchise moments, Saw movie franchise moments, even though it's like the classic familiar, like friends going to a log cabin setup, it becomes quickly apparent through the tone and through the direction that this is less of an actual scary movie and more of a scary movie. And if y'all the 90s or 2000 babies, the scary movie franchise classic. In The BLACKening, the scares are subbed out for quick-witted racial commentary about colorism, anti-blackness, pop culture in general. It just really gets into the conversation. Director Tim Story, if you probably know some of his filmography from like Barbershop, Ride Along, the 2000s Fantastic Four movies. In this film, he composes a lively comedy that breathes a whole new life into the horror spoof landscape. The runtime is only an hour and 36 minutes, so it really does fly by in a breeze, and the comedy couples nicely with the scares. The scares themselves, they're not the most groundbreaking scares, not the most, subversive. As subversive as the premises and the conversation pieces are, the actual mystery itself is pretty easy to guess. It's not all that. It's pretty predictable. But otherwise, the real surprise in this film comes in how the real surprise in this film is how the filmmakers tap into the current cultural zeitgeist. Like, they do it so efficiently. The dialogue is packed to the brim with, buzzwords and keywords that you see on like Mac Twitter conversations, particularly black Twitter conversations. It really does make you feel like you're just scrolling through the timeline while you're sitting inside the movie theater. If you've seen last year's A24 movie, Bodies, 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 and how that film really invoked a lot of the online language, a lot of the online talk, a lot of the online buzzwords, and kind of put that into here. That's what the BLACKening does as well, and it really does feel of the moment. It really does feel like it was made like today or yesterday. The film was co-written by Tracy Oliver, best known for Girls Trip, and also Dewayne Perkins, who, he's a comedian, writer. He's done a lot of stuff for the Amber Ruffin show, and he actually is playing in this film as a character named Dewayne, funny enough. He stars alongside Antoinette Robinson, Sinqua Wells, from the most recent White Man Can't Jump, Jermaine Fowler from Coming to America, Grace Byers. If you watched Empire, she's Anika. Melvin Gregg, who was such a good actor. He's been in so many amazing things, most recently House Party. But if you've seen High Flying Bird, he's great in that. If you've seen American Vandal, he's great in that. If you've seen, it's endless how many good roles Melvin Gregg has been in. He's such a good actor. Also, Mayo, who was on that show American Idol. If you watch that on Peacock or NBC, she's great in that. And of course, Yvonne and Pharoah, they kind of showed them in the trailers. You know, these casts, it's not the most, these aren't like A-list actors. These aren't the biggest names, but they all are funny. They all are attention grabbing, and they all do a really good job. Like, we've seen them in so many little parts or big parts in smaller movies and smaller shows throughout their careers, but seeing them here have really a moment to shine and genuinely hilarious belly-grabbing moments, and sometimes it was really good to see. Like I said before, Dewayne Perkins was one of the writers of the script, so naturally his character is going to serve up some zesty one-liners and looks. Alongside him is Jermaine Fowler, whose performance is clearly a standout. He's like a stammering, awkward guy. His name is Clifton. But actually, my favorite character was Alyssa, who's played by Grace Byers. Now, initially, when she first comes into the movie, you think she's some ditzy, dumb, biracial girl who doesn't really know what's going on. But like after, there's like a hilarious part where she's singing the national Black anthem. You know, there's like a drug trip scene that she's kind of going through. Eventually, her character just grew on me, and it was really, really funny. The BLACKening has the tagline, "We all can't die first," inferring the classic horror trope of the Black characters dying first. But this film actually lives up to the premise, delivering an excellent meta horror comedy that every character has a moment to shine and has a moment to really stand out. Like a lot of my cousins, older cousins' wardrobe or closets, this movie is FUBU through and through, for us and by us. It's clever, witty, unquestionably Black. This is a newly minted classic that needs to be watched with a crowd in a theater. If you buy a Black theater, if you buy a Magic Johnson theater, wherever you at, go and see this movie. The theater I was in was riotous the whole time, just cracking up. I'm telling y'all, there aren't too many Juneteenth set movies, but as of right now, The BLACKening sits at the top of my annual holiday rewatch list. And I'm excited to buy another ticket this weekend, honestly. I cannot wait to see this movie again. What are your thoughts on The BLACKening? What are your thoughts on, Tim Story's filmography? This one's a little bit smaller than a lot of his other films, but I think is just as good. And if I had to rate it out of 10, I'd probably rate it like a 7.5, 7.75, you know what I mean? Just up there, close to an 8. It's really, really funny. The only downside is, like I said, it's not the most, like, groundbreaking scares-wise, but it was really, really funny, and that's all you can ask for out of a comedy. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Studio comedies are still alive and well, y'all. They're still here. Dungeons and Dragons was hilarious. It just was the bend of the comedy, fantasy and comedy. This was a blend of horror and comedy. A lot of these superhero movies are blending, comedy and the superhero genre. That's where the comedy in the studio system lies. It's in other genres. You got to blend it with other genres because these stale, rom-com, even rom-coms are still good. I'm not dissing rom-coms. But when it's just a straight up, dude fest, those were cool in like the early 2000s, but that's not really the vibe no more. We need something interesting to go with our laughs. And this was funny and interesting and subversive. That being said, y'all, it's your boy RB3. Let me know if you've seen this movie already, let me know what you think in the comments down below, or if you're looking forward to it. We need more Black horror comedies, man. Let's get it. With that being said, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DirectorRB3. And you could also follow us on First Cut at First Cut TMO on TikTok, Instagram, all that. With that being said, peace and out, y'all. Peace.
It's either me or you. Take you out the equation. It's either me or you. You do the math. Only one can remain.